Stop. Don't go anywhere. The unpopular realization about the war in Ukraine. It's costly in more ways than one. Welcome to the night shift of The Real Report. We're going to be covering the war in Ukraine's latest news developments, so hit the subscribe button to me, Goose Patrickson, here on this channel for independent coverage of current events from your favorite newscaster. For the censors and algo at YouTube, I would like to just state they're suppressing the views of a non-binary 144th Native American non-practicing Muslim of other color, and I find this to be both racist, transphobic, and Islamophobic. I'd also consider it just unconstitutional and disappointing. Speaking of getting a nun's ruler slap for being naughty, the Wall Street Journal isn't even immune. Good thing Aaron here captured their headline from none other than General Mills himself, which was quickly taken down. It shows an uncomfortable and alternate reality in the conflict. We're also going to be talking about Hungary, the EU's oil embargo, the new rhetoric in the Arctic Circle that's escalating tensions with Russia, South Korean arms deal, and more. This is the channel for those who want to be in the know, so if you know, you know. Stick around, watch all the way to the end, slap the like button, and subscribe. Here, getting into the information, this could help explain why General Mark Mills, and anybody who isn't familiar why I say that, it's a jest at Mills General Cereal, which is who he should be working for. So Mark here is pushing for peace in Ukraine, which is a startling 180. The U.S. and some of its allies are concerned that their stockpiles of weaponry, including some ammunition, are being depleted at an unsustainable rate. And if you guys aren't familiar, this will be my 70th video, and I've covered this for weeks, that the logistics simply aren't there and we don't have the stockpiles. I've covered the reports from not only the DoD, Department of Navy, Department of Army, and more to back that up. So check out my videos if you don't believe it. So here out of the Wall Street Journal, before it was quickly removed, here you can see the page no longer exists, but we have the screenshot. The U.S. and some of its allies are concerned that their stockpiles of weaponry, including some ammunition, are being depleted at an unsustainable rate. U.S. military support for Ukraine this year, now nearing $19 billion, has far outstripped European assistance. That's a reoccurring theme, especially with NATO contributions. We're seeing real practical problems of making military progress. We're seeing shortages of munitions, said another Western official. The same day that General Milley spoke of an opportunity for talks, President Biden, too, suggested the time could soon be right for peace. That's an interesting one. But elite UK troops prepare for Russian invasion of Europe in the Mojave Desert, which is an interesting current event, given the Mojave Desert is not exactly like anything near the Arctic Circle. But hey, that's where they're training. Rangers join military drills in California to simulate a sweeping attack. British Army has sent a new elite infantry regiment and a platoon of drone operators to the Mojave to take part in an American wargaming exercise that simulates a Russian invasion of Europe. About 450 British soldiers were flown to California in a 1,000 square mile by Fort Irwin. That's an interesting one. And also, too, hopping back into the Russia-Ukraine thing, and here's a joke on Zero Hedge you can read on the screen. Escobar, Sun Tzu, walks into a Kirsten bar. But, once the ground freezes over, it's interesting to look at the retreat here, which is obviously a political and, at face value, big loss for Putin. But strategically, does it matter that much? Probably not. Once everything freezes over, and the Russians have always excelled at winter warfare, we'll see if the tide turns. Hungary explains huge impact of total failure. Anti-Russia sanctions on Europeans. That's right, the Hungarian foreign minister has started to use his brain and went off on failed and backfired U.S. and European sanctions on Russia in an English language interview, saying, quote, "The sanctions which have been introduced by the European Union against Russia have failed. It's a total failure. The biggest impact was felt negatively by EU member states, and the sanctions have not achieved any of their stated goals." Any of them. Nope. And, quote, "It was said by the European Commission that the sanctions will help us to conclude this war as soon as possible and that it will bring Russia's economy to its knees. What's the outcome? It's totally the opposite." That's right. The economic war still being waged against Moscow is only resulting in escalation on the battlefield, as well as escalating inflation at home, another reoccurring theme I talk about almost daily. Europe is now enduring a tremendous energy crisis and rising food prices. Hungary was forced to pay $19 billion for energy imports this year, which is more than double the $7 billion it paid in 2021. Obviously, a huge consequence of the EU short-sighted actions, he said. Again, that's from the Hungarian foreign minister. And the EU's embargo on Russian oil will be a boon for OPEC. Europe is preparing to enact its embargo on Russian oil, and refiners are scrambling for alternatives. Many are searching for new sources of crude, have landed on Middle Eastern producers as a potential alternative. Some of the implications of that: sanctions on Russia, relatively toothless. Europe is in a position to start getting serious about energy sanctions, but securing enough extra energy supply to replace Russian imports will be no easy feat. Sanctions on Russian energy, bit by bit, the Kremlin has hit back hard. They're talking about shutting off the flows from the Nord Stream, and of course now the Nord Stream is gone. While this overnight loss of crucial energy supplies worsened an already dire energy crisis, Europe, it also galvanized the development of new energy sources and trading partners. In fact, while Europe's energy crisis remains serious, it has not been as devastating as many experts predicted. And here's where Hallie Zaremba is pretty much a fool. Energy demand has fallen in response to skyrocketing prices, and alternative energies have risen to the occasion. That's right. We have such an abundance of solar that Germany's saved. They're not going to freeze to death this winter. No, sir. Starting this month, OPEC will cut production quotas by a whopping 2 million barrels per day. Don't forget about that. On the one hand, global oil demand could fall considerably in the coming year. On the other hand, if Europe starts snapping up Middle East crude, it could lead to intensifying competition for spot cargoes from the U.S. North Sea and even the Persian Gulf. And cargoes from North Sea and Kazakhstan are also getting increasingly snapped up by Europeans, leaving fewer options for those Asian refiners. So some of the consequences we haven't even seen yet. And another one that I've reported on previously, but it's good to touch base on the updated article. Russia may be preparing Doomsday nuclear torpedo test from the Poseidon, which I covered in a video. Russia may be preparing a test of its new nuclear Doomsday torpedo sometime in the coming weeks. U.S. intelligence monitored Russian naval vessels leaving their base and entering the Arctic testing area, among which was Russia's new Belgorod nuclear submarine, which carries the new Poseidon autonomous nuclear torpedo. Again, quote, Doomsday weapon. And of course, you guys heard me talk about this on Friday's video. Lockheed Martin's new Rapid Dragon, which is pretty awesome palletized munitions, cruise missiles dropped out of a C-130. So go check that video out if you haven't already, or go look up Lockheed Martin's Rapid Dragon. Now, U.S. Special Forces unit has stepped up its operations. Guess what? Same place the Belgorod is, in the Arctic Circle in Norway, while admitting it is trying to get Russia's attention by testing an experimental new weapons delivery system here. And guess what? It puts this thing within range of Russia. The Special Operations Command Europe Lieutenant Colonel Lawrence Melnikov said, guess what? Quote, this is mind-numbingly stupid. We are intentionally trying to be provocative without being escalatory. Just think about that for a minute. I'm not going to explain. We're trying to deter Russian aggression, expansionist behavior by showing enhanced capabilities of the Allies. The palletized munitions, the Rapid Dragon, can be loaded with joint air-to-surface standoff missiles, which have a range of up to 1,200 miles, depending on the variant. Other weapons like swarming drones can be deployed utilizing this method as well, and the military says the unusual delivery is in part designed to disguise a long-range missile launch as but a typical battlefield airdrop from a cargo plane. And as some of the commenters stated, then Russia will simply add these C-130 cargo planes to the list of, essentially a B-52 bomber. And another interesting turn of events out of San Diego, the Macon Island Ready Group with 13th MEU quietly deploys from the naval base, again in San Diego. The amphibious assault ship, the USS Macon Island, and its ready group quietly departed Naval Base San Diego on Election Day for deployment in the Indo-Pacific region. So, of course, we're moving things around the chessboard. And South Korea on the defensive after secret deal to supply munitions for Ukraine gets exposed. Again, talking about why. Okay, see, there's usually a flow to my videos. We come back full circle to the whole Wall Street Journal fiasco, right? We're running out of things. Ding, ding, ding. Connect the dots. South Korea is insistent that its official policy of not sending arms to the Ukraine conflict has remained unchanged, I swear. Just like Iran swears we're not sending drones to Russia. But even as news is breaking of a secret deal to sell 100,000 artillery shells to the United States, who then reportedly, guess what, intends to transfer them to Ukraine. The Wall Street Journal said South Korea will for the first time sell artillery shells destined for Ukraine forces through a confidential arms deal between Seoul and Washington. The U.S. officials familiar with the deal said that the U.S. will purchase 100,000 rounds of 155mm artillery ammunition that will be delivered to Ukraine. Again, I've talked about the 155mm before, and enough to supply Ukraine's artillery units for at least several weeks of intensive combat. So all this effort to scrounge up but a few weeks of shells. Reuters on Friday said that the Pentagon indeed plans to send the South Korean manufactured shells to the Ukrainian army, utilizing the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, the USAI. Let me get a drink of water here. The official warned that news of the talks being made public could threaten the deal, naturally. The Defensive Ministry is framing it as a making up for deficiencies in U.S. stocks. A clever game, the same one that every other country is playing, especially Iran. And, quote, we've provided humanitarian and peaceful assistance to Ukraine in solidarity with the international community, but never lethal weapons or any such things, Yoon said at the time. And they're trying to maintain peaceful and good relations with all countries around the world, including Russia. And the big problem here is, of course, their neighbors with North Korea. And not going to go on about the implications that could have and the severe outcomes. And again, just to back that up here from Al Jazeera, U.S. to buy South Korean artillery shells for Ukraine. And that's going to do it for today, guys. I'm not going to cover the plan to release GMO mosquitoes in California, draws fire from California lawmakers and environmentalists. That'll be another video. So again, hit the like button, comment down below, subscribe, and if you guys want to donate a coffee, if you feel like tipping. Down here, we're at 35%. Appreciate any and all support. Thanks for watching. Definitely click the next video and keep watching.